Lesson 11 for December 7 through 13, Backslidden People, read by Dr. Percy Harrold. Monday, December 9, the Levites in the Fields. Question. Read Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 10 through 14. What is Nehemiah seeking to remedy here? Nehemiah 13, beginning at verse 10. I also realized that the portions for the Levites had not been given them, for each of the Levites and the singers who did the work had gone back to his field. So I contended with the rulers and said, Why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then all Judah brought the tithe of the grain and the new wine and the oil to the storehouse. And I appointed as treasurers over the storehouse Shelemiah the priest and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites Pedaiah, and next to them was Hanan the son of Zaccur, the son of Mattaniah. For they were considered faithful, and their task was to distribute to their brethren. Remember me, O my God, concerning this, and do not wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for its services. The singers, gatekeepers, and other temple servants had to go back to working in their own fields in order to feed their families, because the work for God had not been supported. The whole tithes and offerings system that was so painstakingly established now lay in ruins. Nehemiah had to start over. The act of throwing everything out of the room shows desperation. As we read in Prophets and Kings, page 670, not only had the temple been profaned, but the offerings had been misapplied. This had tended to discourage the liberalities of the people. They had lost their zeal and fervour and were reluctant to pay their tithes. The treasuries of the Lord's house were poorly supplied. Many of the singers and others employed in the temple service, not receiving sufficient support, had left the work of God to labour elsewhere. End of quote. It is fascinating to see that all of Judah came together again and rebuilt what had been destroyed. The people were on Nehemiah's side against Tobiah and Eliashib, because they must have realized that Nehemiah did everything he could for the benefit of the people. Additionally, Nehemiah entrusted the temple grounds, overseers, positions to men whom he considered faithful and trustworthy. They were given the task of collecting tithes and offerings, making sure the goods were stored properly, and distributing the resources to the appropriate parties. In other words, Nehemiah came in and uprooted the corrupt system of leadership, seemingly in one fell swoop. Although Nehemiah appointed faithful men over the organization of the temple, the corrupt high priest Eliashib did not lose his position, because it was handed down through Aaron's descent. His work in the temple might have been crippled by Nehemiah's measures of appointing others over some of the high priest's responsibilities, but he was still the high priest. So to finish the day, Nehemiah had prayed in Nehemiah 13:14, Remember me, O my God, concerning this, and do not wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for its services. What was so human about that prayer? This week's lesson has been read by Dr. Percy Harrold from Queensland, Australia. It is brought to you by Hope Channel, the Sabbath School Department, and through the services of Christian Services for the Blind. A video of this podcast also occurs on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.